My name is Jim McNulty. I work here at Oak Bank in Fitchburg, Wisconsin. I'm a Senior Vice President of Business Banking. Oak Bank is about a 18-year-old community bank here in Fitchburg, about $300 million in asset size. That's a good average to small size community bank. We help a lot of individuals and small businesses here in the Dane County area. I'm going to talk a little bit about negotiable instruments. As the name implies, negotiable instruments are financial products that can be negotiated, sometimes traded back and forth, but really move money in one way or another. And there's 5 main types of negotiable instruments that I'm going to tell you about. The first one is a check, and almost everyone should know what a check is. This is a counter check, so it's not made out, but most of you have used checks. Your name will be on there, of course. There's a place to write the amount of the check, a place to sign the check, and once the check is made out, then it is negotiable. You can give it to someone and they can do something with it. When we get checks here, one of the things we always look for is fraudulent items. There's always a ton of fraud out there, so sometimes we can tell that this check is been forged, it has been altered, so we look for that. Once we know that it looks like a good item, we'll either cash it, exchange it for regular old currency, or we will deposit into a person's account. That's what happens most of the time. Couple little things, checks have to be endorsed on the back, so if it's made payable to one person, that person has to sign it on the back. And another thing, contractually, because it is negotiable, that person can make it payable to somebody else. Theoretically, that could probably go on forever, although that tends to get a little dicey. Banks like to know their clients, so usually the first person who it's made to is the person who cashes it. Also, there's a place to write it out in words, the amount of the check, and also the numbers there, just as a double check. It's a little cute law that if the numbers and the writing don't correspond, that you go with the writing amount. That's the part, that's the number that will take precedence. So that is a check. Oh, stale dating as well. Checks theoretically can be cashed for a long period of time. There's no firm law, but a lot of times there's the 180-day rule where if a check is out there for more than 6 months, it may be a little bit more difficult to cash. So those are checks. The second item is a specific kind of check. It is a cashier's check. This is a cashier's check that has not been made out to anybody yet or drafted. The top portion here is a check, and again, it looks like a personal check, but a bank makes out a cashier's check. Somebody comes in with good funds, either cash or money in an account, and they will purchase a cashier's check. We will make it payable to a specific person for a specific amount, and at that point, it really becomes a guaranteed obligation of the bank. With very few exceptions, once a cashier's check is made out, we have to honor that check and it's good. If it's lost or stolen, there's a couple of ways to do that. But again, it's a very formal check and it is an obligation of the bank that a bank officer such as myself has to sign off on. And then it's almost a guaranteed item. So when someone's purchasing a home, a car, or doing a large financial transaction, they'll often ask for a cashier's check. Third type of negotiable instrument is a certificate of deposit. A certificate of deposit is what I would call a restricted savings account type instrument, where someone comes in with a certain amount of money, puts it on deposit, and we restrict it for a certain period of time, where you cannot get at this money for 6 months, 1 year, 2 years. In exchange for us knowing we have that money on deposit, we give them a little bit higher interest rate for that. So they get this certificate as proof of their investment. Small community banks generally don't. This is kind of a negotiable instrument. This particular one isn't negotiable, but there are banks and there are certain situations where we may make a negotiable certificate of deposit. In days gone by, they were very negotiable. This was just like a deed to a house or some other type of investment where if I had this certificate, I could sell it to somebody for money and they could get the interest instead of me. So again, that's a little bit of a gray area. We do buy certificates of deposits from large investment banks. In those cases, those are negotiable. So that's another one. The fourth type is a note, and a note is really just another way to say a loan. So this is actually, this is my home loan. I blacked out the specifics there, but a note is really a promise to pay. We give somebody some money for something as a bank, and that person then pays us back over time. That stream of payments is what's the negotiable instrument. Loans are often sold, and it really depends on the type of loan, but home loans are frequently sold, and this is my home loan with me and my wife. It got sold to to Fannie Mae. They're one of the few government-related entities that buy and sell home loans, so you can get a nice, cheap, long, fixed-rate loan. Fannie Mae, Federal Home Loan Bank, or Freddie Mac are generally the people who will negotiate these. And then, so we sell these notes to Freddie Mae, to Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac, and then they in turn sell them, make bonds out of them, and sell them on the market. Car loans, small personal loans generally aren't sold out on the secondary market, but that can happen. Business loans are frequently sold. As a smaller community bank, we can do a large transaction that may be over the legal limit where we can lend, but we'll sell off portions of that to other banks, and then they may sell that portion to somebody else. So again, loans you understand from the consumer side, but from the bank side, that's a negotiable instrument that can be sold. The last instrument here is a letter of credit. Related to a loan, but a little bit different. A letter of credit is really a promise that the bank will pay somebody under a certain condition if certain things are met. A customer will come in and need a letter of credit. An example of that is if a construction company is building a large neighborhood, the city or the county will want to make sure they do everything correctly. They want a guarantee. So we will get this letter of credit. Our client will have to pay a fee for this and often pledge collateral. And this letter of credit would say, if you do not make the roads correct or put up the fire hydrants correctly, the city can come in, draw on this letter of credit, say the customer did not do what they said, and we have to pay them money so they can finish that job. So letters of credit can be what I would call negative, where somebody didn't do something and the bank has to pay. They can also be positive, where two parties may not want to give each other money until something is manufactured, goods are delivered, and then we can have that type of a delivery letter of credit where when certain conditions are met, we exchange the money. And again, theoretically, these letters are obligations that involve a fee and can have interest, so those can be exchanged between different parties. So that is the 5 different types of negotiable instruments. Thank you.